commenting on that, you know, I thought I know so many things, you know. I thought I was intelligent. When I discovered that my life is missing, there is something that is lacking. And when I was reading those books,
yeah,
there
is the book. Yeah. The essence and value of life. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So it's very important that every individual get to understand the content of that book, because it contains principles that many people are ignorant of today. They don't know how to apply. We just live life without understanding the rules. It's just like having a machine and not knowing how to operate it. That is how life is to some of us. We just have life, but we don't know how to operate it. We don't know that there are principles behind it. And our churches today, our GOs, they don't teach us some of those things. So God inspired DSA in his mind to be able to note down some of these ideas down. So it's very important that people visit it. So I saw 3 people left question that was relating to that. So I was like, okay, I don't know if DSA would like to comment on that, but I said, okay, go back and find that teaching is very essential. There were life stories about it that you made, some life examples that you said about it too, the YouTube teachings and some of those things. So go ahead, look for some of those teachings. So there are questions here that might not be treated, that they have been treated in the previous record that we did. And then there are those also that DS has already treated in some of his life records. So if you're listening to us and you're hoping that some of those questions will be addressed, just go on, continue listening to DSA's messages, and you will get the answer to every question that you have, especially questions relating to Bible, to Christian life, to principles, both economic, both spiritual. Most of those topics have been treated. Now, I see that most questions also were also related to the concept of God, which DSA have already talked much about that already. He tried to explain to us the concept and explaining the Bible, how we have to see the Bible, how we can interpret the Bible properly to see some of these things. So go ahead. I encourage us to continue listening to his messages, because we will learn a lot through them. You know. So I myself, I find it hard to. I discovered that was the last article I read about the essence of life. You know, so I found it a little bit difficult. The first paragraph seems a little bit. It talks about one specific topic, but it was rephrased 5 times in 5 different manner. You know, so when I was reading it, I was like, okay, it was said differently in different phrases. So if you don't understand the first phrase, the first sentence, you can understand the second sentence. If the second sentence doesn't relate to you, you can understand the third sentence. Third sentence doesn't relate to you, you can understand the fourth one. So almost a 5th line. And then when you're reading like that, the thing go down into your mind. You get the idea what the book is talking about, that you understand. At first, I was like a little bit critical about the book. I was like, no, this is repetitive, you know. But then I said to myself, no. Then after reading, I understood the idea behind that style of writing. So if you're like me, if you encounter the same problem, don't panic yet, don't hesitate. Just go on patiently. Understand the key idea behind the writings. They are very, very important messages that are hidden behind. I feel blessed to discover that. Now I feel my life is defined through understanding some of those principles of life. Now I know exactly what to apply. I know how to expect what life has to offer to me. I know exactly how to make use of power, how to make use of wealth, how to make use of wisdom. And I know exactly how to know when to apply them, when not to apply them, you know. And I know that those are not some of the essential things that human beings ought to consecrate their life pursuing, because they are vanities, you know. So you have to understand some of those principles about life. You know, when I was reading that, I saw that many people, that is exactly what the world is after. The world, the things we are saying that we should not go after is exactly what the world is going after. They are going after power, they are going after wealth, they are going after wisdom. And by doing, they have neglected some of the values, some of the real core human values that God is saying we should try to observe them. So some of these things, and then there was something I was reading too about a certain book of Freemason. Those are some of the same ideas they were promoting. This power, wealth, and wisdom. they are promoting these specific ideas because of my curiosity about trying to understand
But our whole society is based on reading those kind of books from the Freemasons and from the 21 or is it 21 laws of power of the college?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so those are the kind of books that promote those kind of values. They promote that people should look for power and try to use power to have dominion. And that's the kind of people we have ruling us. That is the problem with our elite in Africa. The elite in Nigeria and the political elite and even church elite, they are living by those principles of power, wisdom, and wealth. So you will see that those are the three things that define anybody you will see most of the people in the world. But when you look at the truly successful people like Bill Gates, like Mark Zuckerberg, you will see that they are even simple. They even give out those things. They don't even look for those things anymore because they have found the essence of life. So, but when you find a society which is based on those three things, the big three, power, wisdom, and wealth, when a society is all about those things, you will find an oppressive people and an oppressive society. People taking advantage of other people so that they will be significant. They will go and do anything to be able to have power, and to get that power, they will be willing to sacrifice the well-being of other human beings like them. To be able to, even when they have wisdom, that wisdom is to show their superiority over other people. And when they have wealth, that wealth is to, emphasize their own power, their own significance all over again, and to put other people in subjection to themselves. So, and unfortunately, that is the way the world majorly is run. And it's a pity that even people who call themselves followers of the Lord Jesus Christ, they now succumb to those kind of philosophy and they follow these value systems. And so the essence of life is lost. The value of life is lost. The only thing that is now important is the personal significance and importance of individuals through their wealth, through what they know, their wisdom, and through their power. So that's what this book addresses, to try to bring everybody back to the old essence of life. Many people don't even know it. So what is the essence of life? What is the value of life? How do you recognize the value of life? How do you recognize the essence of life? What is the meaning of life? And what is it that does not translate to life? What is it that does not translate to the meaning of life? So it's a mind-shaking book. It will shake your mind up and your value systems. And your eyes will be open, and it's almost nobody will be able to argue with the content because it is the truth. And the only thing one might be amazed with is the fact that why is it that I didn't know this before, or why is it that I never read this in any of the books. Well, that's why I still subscribe to Christianity, because if not because of the Word of God, there is no way I would have been able to get to this kind of wisdom myself.
DSA, I was getting lost. I was getting really, I don't know how to describe where I was heading to. This curiosity that is driving us and certain arrogance that is filled in our mind is really dangerous to some of us. So if you're listening now and you happen to be an atheist and you think you don't want to read DSA's book because he's a Christian, I'm telling you that you're making a gross error. Just humble your mind, get this book and understand it. I will tell you some dangerous book I was reading recently. It's called Indaba, My Children. It's written by Credo Mutua. He's a conspiracy theorist in Africa currently.
I don't know that one.
Okay.
Is it the guy from Zimbabwe?
Somehow Zimbabwe, South Africa. He's a Zulu man.
Yeah, he's a Zimbabwean guy. I know the guy now.
So
I know him. I know him, but he's believing in this, anyway, let me leave him alone.
DSA, I was consuming that book, and I found it really interesting. With all this mystic book about this life, I don't want to remain ignorant of any knowledge at all. I think you also approve that, because if you know about him, I think it's important that people don't remain in ignorance.
Yeah, the reason why I read everything and is just for me to know where people are coming from, and not to be ignorant about anything. And when I hear and I I am secured because I already have my own position that I use to judge everything else. I already have the truth because I believe that Christ that I know is the truth. So when I have that, and I can easily see where the mistakes and the error of all these other people are. I see where they are missing it very clearly. And so I could easily, judge what they are missing and what they are getting wrong. Even though in his own case, this guy you are talking about, I understand him because he thinks that Africans have been looked down on and that we have something that the world doesn't. So he wants to prove that we are powerful and that our ancestors and ancient people, that they've always been great. So he wants to rediscover that and bring that. Well, I understand what is coming. I mean, I wrote the book about Africa, how Africa brought civilization, but I am approaching it from the technological, civilization developmental approach. But he is going through his own in a different way, which is boundary with mysticism and occultism and all those kind of things. But well, I am already free, so I can never fall into those kind of deception anymore. But I just know them to be able to just be informed.
I'm always impressed whenever I talk to you and dare to discover that was the main reason why I told you that I wanted to understand that after you know about some of these things, because I'm curious about knowledge. I want to understand it and I try to, but I discovered that I was selfish in my search of knowledge. That anything that doesn't favor Africa, I don't like it automatically. Anything that tries to demean Africa is something that I reject quickly. So that was the fault I discovered in the way I studied. Then I became a victim of anything that tried to promote Africa. Either it's negative or positive. Like this Mutua, this Credo Mutua, that was the beginning of my awakeness into spirituality. That was when I started, although I became less superstitious. That was when the whole thing started coming. That was when because I was super arrogant to the extent that I said there is no God, there is no spirit, there is nothing at all. Well, that was the book that awakened my mind to realize that there are external forces, that there are powers, there are other stuff. So that was the beginning of, that was when I started changing my mind from saying, okay, I'm not an atheist anymore. I want to see things differently. I want to be able to understand that, yes, there are other external forces. But that was when I became aware of nature. I became aware of the forces of the ocean, the human complexity. That was when I started reasoning. So in a nutshell, that book wasn't completely bad. Although there are certain things he said that I didn't agree with, I was reasonable enough to figure them out. But that was the thing somehow shaped my view of the world. It makes me to be less arrogant as I was from the beginning. So yes, this book, these principles of life and value of life, many people are completely ignorant of. Even the so-called atheists who claim that they are highly intelligent and full of wisdom, that they have known everything already, might not even understand some of these principles. And the moment you understand it, life becomes very easy for you. It becomes very easy for you.
Even this author you are talking about, you will see that he's being driven by these big three things. Especially wisdom. He's being driven by wisdom, the desire for wisdom and for power. And he's being driven by, maybe wealth. You couldn't tell. But power, in his own writing and his own researches and everything, you could see that everything is being driven by power and wisdom. So he's looking for, so those two things are the main focal point of his own life. Whereas, when you read this book, you will discover that there are values that are much more significant.
When I was reading, I was asking myself a question. I say, how is it that DSA is against wisdom? Not necessarily against, but it's saying that they are important, but they should not be our priority. Wealth is important, wisdom is important, power is important when it is being properly channeled, when it's being properly used, when it's being properly employed to promote the word of God. Now, what is the word of God for humanity?
But see what the desire power has done for Africa. To Africa. Even these Europeans that you people are criticizing that came to conquer Africa is the same thing that led them to do that, because they thought they are Christians, but they don't know the word of God. So they were actually subdued by those three things. Those three things actually capitalized them. They think they were colonizing Europe, but they themselves were victims of colonization. They have been colonized by the desire for power. They have been colonized by the desire for wealth. They have been subjugated themselves. They themselves were slaves of their own aspirations. And until you are your soul is set free, you are not truly free. And even the guy you are talking about, that the African guy, he is himself is a captive. Is a captive of his own aspiration. Also, the soul is captivated by that the ambition to reveal the power of the black man, and then the knowledge, the wisdom. And he didn't realize it, that he has also become a victim. His soul is held in captive. Your soul will only be set free when they are set free from those three things: power, wisdom, and wealth. Only after they are set free from those three things, then you are truly free. Then you can soar and fly.
In the process of understanding this, okay, this thing is directed to the people that ask their questions about this essence of life. So in a nutshell, now I wanted to just keep it and then ask you to just go read watch the video, but it actually seemed interesting. You were proposing something in the place of power, wealth, and wisdom. I wanted to understand, after reading the Freemasons book and some of the mystic, a lot of books that I tried to understand, and I saw that they were promoting the same idea. All these three things you mentioned now. Then I asked myself, why are they promoting this idea? Of course. Then I discovered that the motive behind is egocentrism. Egocentrism because the thing is centered on the person. And then when after reading your book, I discovered that you were proposing something in place of these three things. You were proposing knowledge of God, first of all. You were proposing love and kindness. And then you were proposing righteousness.
And justice.
Exactly, and justice. Then I discovered, I said, okay, what DSA is proposing is completely the opposite of what these people are asking us to do. The Freemason, the Illuminati, some of the mystic books are proposing this. The key point, if you read some of those books, the manipulative books, there was one they were talking about, especially the Freemason, they were talking about of how you can train your children not to even trust you as a parent, not to train, you make sure that you deceive them, you make sure that you manipulate their mind to function in a distrustful way, so that they should not even trust their government, they should not trust any authority, so that they will have an independent mindset of their own, so that they will be so that they will be so it's all centered on them. It's not an altruistic approach to life. So they are teaching a self-centered doctrine, something that will make you value yourself the more, that will make you value your life, that will make you selfish, that will make you just like yourself more than any other person. So to the extent that you can sacrifice humanity, you can sacrifice the well-being of others. Imagine Freemason teaching people not to trust, not to show love, to be able to hurt when necessary, and they teach you what is called the necessary evil. They call it the necessary evil, one to the extent where you can be able to harm any person for the good of whatsoever idea that they have that they want to promote. They said that if a human being, they promote ideas that if a human being is not functioning well in the community, you have the right to end that person's life for the good of humanity. So these are some of the selfish doctrine they are teaching, and now DSA is proposing something contrary to what it is. So I try to make a comparison between the two ideas and see that these people, they are centered on egocentrism, while you are proposing an altruistic approach to life. An altruistic approach to life promotes humanity. What is the knowledge of God? What is love and kindness? What is righteousness and justice? Is very important that people understand that these are not self-centered virtues, these are not self-centered doctrines, but they are altruistic doctrine that promotes humanity, that want to create. Because with the power, with wisdom, of course, if you have wisdom, you'll be wise, you'll be smart, but who will benefit from it?
It makes you proud. It makes you proud.
Exactly. It makes one proud. So yes, so that is it. So knowledge of God, what will you comment on that? Because it seems vague to me. What is precisely the knowledge of God? Is it just the Bible that is the knowledge of God? Or can you comment on that, please?
Okay. My understanding of the knowledge of God is the knowledge of his orders.
Okay.
The knowledge of his precepts. And the knowledge of his ways. So some people are complaining about the volume, not from my side. I think it's from your side.
What's the problem then?
But I'm talking now. Maybe when you begin to talk, maybe the micro. Do you have a microphone or something? I think you used to have something in your head. Maybe
yes.
Is that a microphone or?
That microphone is an earpiece.
Maybe it could help you.
Let me plug it now.
Okay.
I hope it's clear now.
Yeah, maybe it might be okay. But anyway, when you begin to talk, we'll see. So the knowledge of God, from my own perspective, is the fact that somebody, it's going to be difficult for someone to say, how will you know the knowledge of God when you don't know God? You don't see God. But there is ways of doing things. There is model operandi that God uses. So there are, patterns of God, the principles, the values, the way of reasoning of God. So when you read the Bible, for example, it's not just the Bible. A lot of people who just embrace the Bible, they become religious. So, but it is very important for you to know why you are embracing the Bible and why you read the Bible or believe in the Bible. The Bible is not supposed to be a religious book. The Bible is supposed to help us to understand the ways and the patterns of God. The ways and the model operandi of God. That is what the Bible is supposed to help us do. For example, when we read a story in the Bible like Jesus feeding the 5,000 or the 4,000, we might think that means God is a powerful God and God can do everything. Well, that is again falling into the same ditch that we just spoke about. God is not trying to impress us with power. And that is exactly what those same people, that the Freemasons that you are talking about, were doing. So the miracles of the Bible is not to impress us or to try to convince us that God, look at this powerful God that we have. No, he doesn't need to impress anybody. He's not playing that game. It is when you are a child, a kindergarten baby, that you'll be going to talk to your classmates and tell them that, my brother, I have a big brother that has big muscles. If anything, they will beat you. That's not the kind of God. God is not trying to play that kind of game on us. Those are child's play. So why was God doing the miracles? And is he trying to impress us? Is he trying to let us know that he can do the miracles? And when you listen to contemporary pastors today and teachers, that's the impression you will come up with. You'll be having the impression that, because they keep on telling you the stories. Oh, God is powerful. Oh, he fed 4,000. Oh, he fed 20,000. He fed 2,000. I mean, we already know that. So what's the big deal about it? So the whole thing, the way, because they read it from the Bible and they are thinking that the Bible is a book about God. But that's not the way for you to know God. The way for you to know God is to look at the Bible as a book, not just about God, but a book about me. So how does that work? So if I say the first thing you need to pursue instead of wealth and wisdom and power is the knowledge of God, which means I read the Bible, anything, not just through the Bible, any book, through any book. I seek knowledge to discover the nature, the characteristics, the likeness, the preferences of God. Now, for example, let's look at that story. Let's say I open the Bible and I read that story that Jesus was with people in the wilderness and he's discovered that these people have been with him for 3 days and he decided to do a miracle. So I want to find out, why did he put that in the Bible? And I discovered that the reason God put that in the Bible is for my sake. Not for my sake to know that he is powerful. No. It's for me to know him. So when I'm now talking about the knowledge of God, how does that make me to know God? That story is telling me that God is a compassionate God. God realizes that people were with him or were following him or people were in need. God saw people in need and responded. All. Voila. That is it. That's it. That shows me that, okay, so the God that I serve is a God that is not indifferent to other people's plight. The God that I serve is a God that is compassionate. Oh. So why is that important for me? It's not the knowledge that matters to me. But what matters to me is discovery. What do I mean by discovery? Discovery in the sense that once I could discover who my maker is, once I could discover who God is, then that becomes a key to me discovering who I am meant to be. So because I know I'm fashioned after him. I am made after his image. So once I discover that, God will not pass by the needy. Now I got a purpose for going back to Africa. Now I can no more be in the same group with those same pastors that will have 5 jets or 2 jets or 3 jets and keep on building. Whereas there are people in their congregation that are not even able to have 3 square meals. There are people in that same country that are living on $2 a day. I mean, that is 90% of the country. It means these people, either they don't understand the whole essence of Bible. So when you don't read the Bible for the knowledge of God, that is what I mean by the knowledge of God. I don't mean religion. But because you have seen the word God, and your only concept of God is religion, then you'll be doing the same thing they are doing. But my own concept of God is not religion. My own concept of God is discovery. If I could discover God, who he is, then it leads me to discover who I am. It becomes my mirror. It is the whole idea of discovering a mirror for myself. I needed a trajectory. I needed a compass. Therefore, I've got a compass that now directs me into who I am supposed to become on earth. So that's why I know that I cannot become a tyrant. And I cannot begin to build an empire, either it's 3 by 3 or anything you call it, why there are people who go hungry. Why? Not because I am good, but because I discovered God. Who is God? How did I discover it? I discovered that he is somebody that is so compassionate that will not allow himself to close his own eyes, neither will he allow his disciples to be callous or indifferent about the needs of ordinary human beings that are around him and that are also in need of any whatever the need is. And I see that consistently in the nature of this by God. For example, in another instance, some ordinary human beings will always behave like ordinary human beings. But when ordinary human beings encounter God, then you discover another reality. So, for example, why do I say in this book that the most important thing in life, the essence and value of life is not in wealth. The essence and value of life is not in wisdom. the essence and value of life is not in power. The reason is because the essence and value of life is in discovering God, is in the knowledge of God. So what do I mean by the knowledge of God? So the knowledge of God means, for example, when they brought that woman to Jesus and said that the woman is caught in adultery. Now, what was the response? What was the response of God? What was the response of how will I discover God in that sense? Now, they brought the lady. She's guilty. Not that she was not guilty. She's actually guilty. She was actually involved in adultery. But so how will what do I want to find out? What I want to find out is not the story. Unfortunately, when you go to churches today, you keep on hearing the story of the woman caught in adultery. It's all about the story. I already read the story. I'm not interested in the story. So what am I interested in? Because when you view God only from the religious perspective, and when you view the Bible only from the religious angle, then you are going to see the story. And you will go on and on talking about Jesus. But that whole story is not for Jesus' sake anymore. It's not for me to begin to talk about Jesus. Oh, he was merciful. Oh, he forgave the woman's sin. No. The reason why I have that in the Bible and why that is put in the Bible is for me to know who my God is like and what my God is like. So what did I see in God? What is the description of God that I discovered in that story? And in that story, I discovered the God that is not a condemner. I discover a God that doesn't condemn sinners and doesn't condemn anybody. But when I look at the Christianity today, I see that they don't get it. Because we are busy condemning the gay people. We are busy condemning what those people we call sinners. We are busy condemning people we call unbelievers. We are busy condemning terrorists. We are busy condemning the feminists. We are busy condemning the atheists. We are busy condemning all kinds of people. We are busy pointing accusing fingers at people. The very opposite of who God is. So what I saw there is that God is a God that understands men's frailties and human weaknesses. And when I discovered that this God is an understanding God, I want to be like him. That's what I mean by the knowledge of God. What do I mean that I want to be like him? I want to be as compassionate as him. I want to be as understanding as him. And God forbid that I will be one that comes down together with a heavy hammer to hammer down somebody just because the person is not perfect. And when somebody listens to me and says, but is that not the same thing you are doing in regarding to the pastors in Africa? I said, no, then you get the whole thing wrong. In regards to the pastors in Africa and the teachings that I'm doing, I am correcting doctrines. I am correcting practices. I am not condemning the individuals at all. I love the individuals. I respect the individuals. I will prostrate to them when I meet them today or tomorrow. But I'm actually helping them by delivering them from the clutches that and the strings that are holding them down. And that are holding a lot of millions of other people down. So I'm just removing the strings. But not just loving them, but loving the people who they are in their captivity as well. I'm just revealing the truth, just like Jesus did. He spoke strongly, even though Jesus was a symbol of love himself. He would not condemn the poor lady that was caught in sin. But he did condemn the practices of the Jews, of the Pharisees, out of the Sadducees. But not out of hatred, but just correcting them for them to change their lifestyle. So I want to be balanced in that sense. So that's the way I see about the knowledge of God. So when I talk about the knowledge of God, I want to discover, why did he feed people? He cares. I want to care. If he will go ahead to go to the extent of feeding, it means I shouldn't close my eyes at anybody who is in need. And if need be, I should be able to do a similar miracle and provide food for the needy. If he will give forgiveness to to somebody that is already condemned, oh, I discover who I am supposed to be. I am supposed to be a forgiving individual as well. So discovering God makes you to be able to build your own moral character. It gives you the building blocks for which that you could use to construct your life. Then you know exactly the value system that made up who you are. So for every cell that you have, for every molecule in your body, there is a principle standing by it. There is a virtue. There is a value system that has made you whole as an integral personality. So rather than just living a chaotic life that is regulated and led by your feelings and emotions, you have replaced those animalistic tendencies by concrete informed values that could not go wrong, because they are the values of the ultimate. They are the values of the eternal, of the eternal God, of the perfect God, of the paramount God. And since he is perfection by himself, then I could discover who he is, and I could get a hold of those values, and I could informedly, use them to construct my own character and my personality. I can never go wrong. That is what it means to me when I write in this book, that the things that should replace the quest for power should be the quest for the knowledge of God, not the quest for power. Okay. That's the whole essence of that. So that the essence of life is God's knowledge, the knowledge of God, meaning the discovering of self. So my religion to me, therefore, will be a little bit different from what is widely practiced in our world today.
DSC, I don't know how to. You're always really impressive. It's said that people can take the scripture, interpret it the way they want. I've never seen the Bible just as you have explained it now. I've listened to so many preachers. They read the Bible, they interpret it the way they want. The initial knowledge I had about this specific scripture was that Jesus Christ was powerful. That's why he was able to demonstrate his power to make bread and feed 5,000 people.
Yeah, that's what pastors and preachers talk about, yeah.
That is just it. But the lesson behind is what you were emphasizing about. I'm asking myself, how did you came to this revelation? How did you get this? How can you able to see it differently from others? That is it. So I started this mission of this meeting, asking myself, why did DSA subscribe to Christian religion? Like I said earlier on, that I've read a lot of mystic book, dangerous book, that if you're not very careful, you read, you get misled. If you're not a very strong critical thinker, it will damage your mind, the way your sense of reasoning. I don't know if it has done, if I'm a victim of that too, but to some extent, I think I question some of the things I read, and I try to be more objective in the things that I read. And then discovering that you have already read some of this book yourself, it's really, really impressive to me. So the objective of this meeting initially was, I sat down in my room and I asked myself, why is DSA? If he knows about these things, he knows about white supremacy, he knows about some of these ideas, some of these theories, why does he still subscribe to Christianity? Why? So I think I'm beginning to get the message now. I'm beginning to understand. And I think at the end of this meeting, I don't know when, I don't know until people keep sending their questions, I don't know how far, but I think I'm beginning to get the reason why you subscribe to this, to the Christian value. Because the more I read your work, the more I listen to the things, to the way you preach, to the way you teach the Bible, it's totally different. I know my friends, some that are saying, of course, we're trying to promote white supremacist ideas, and but that the Bible is a white supremacy book. It promotes white supremacy idea, but who cares if the book can be used to advance our
this
community?
same white, the white they are talking about are also victims of the big three. They are victims of PWW. Power, wealth, and wisdom. Power, wisdom, and wealth. They are victims themselves, and that is what that turned them to oppressors. That is what turned them to oppressors, and that is why I personally believe that the most wicked race that has ever been on earth is the white race. Even though I live among the white people here, 99% of my church is white, and all my people, you see every here, there's only one black person that is sitting here with me. She came from Nigeria. Otherwise, all people around me are white people. But they are the weakest people. If you are going to the most wicked race on earth, if you are going to look at the antecedents, if you are going to look at history and look at statistics, they are white people are the worst race on earth. Not now, not as a race, but just as their record. But it's not because they are bad. It's not because they are evil. It's just because, they were deceived by these three things. Power, wisdom, and wealth. Power, wisdom, and wealth. Power, wisdom, and wealth. Riches. So the love of riches is what made them to become who they became. And even though they have wisdom, but the wisdom has become the Lord, has taken the place of God in their heart. And that's why they have become like demons. And power also, that's why they became who they became. So I would not say any race is bad, but just looking at, the records, you will see the same thing. So not that I don't know these things. I know it, but I also know another fact. I also know that in the next 50 years, white people will be begging to be friends with black people. Yes, white people are going to be so insignificant that they are going to be begging for colored people, black people for relevance. So because of that, I cannot hate them. I cannot dislike them. I cannot discriminate against them. I can only love them because they are children, and their children's children are going to reap the evil that the white race has caused on the black, on the rest of the world. And we will have to be higher than them at that point. We have to be higher than them by loving them back and not paying them back to, by the way they have treated us. So though that doesn't mean that I should regard Jesus as a white Jesus or as a white man's religion. Jesus Christ was not a white person. And that's why it is ludicrous to think that Christianity is a white man's religion, because it's not even a white man's religion in the first place. But the goodness of Christianity, the love of Christianity, and the kindness of Christianity subdued the white man's land before it was corrupted again by them. But that doesn't mean that the core message of Christianity is coming from them.
Interesting. So yes, talking about these three PWW, and I was carrying on a certain research about the land of Israel, the current state of Israel, which was founded in 1948. And I was studying the evolution. I was asking myself, because today, actually, someone was talking about Christianity. He traveled to Israel, actually, with his entire family. They went in, they made a video. These are white families, so we're talking. And he said something about human race descending directly from Noah, that Noah had 3 children, and Japheth, Shem, and I can't remember the other name.
Yes.
I think is. So he was saying that the black, the Negroid, the Mongoloid, or the Mongoloid, I think. So, and then they come from Ham, and then we have another group, the Caucasoid, which are the whites, the Caucasians. They come from Shem, I think, and then Japheth are the Semite. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And what happened? Which color was Noah? Was he black? Because certainly, scientifically, only black can be able to give birth to white. We have very few record of whites, because white is a recessive state of human gene. So we have seen so many black parents, black couples giving birth to white children, giving birth to albinos with recessive gene. So does that mean that Noah was black? Does that mean that he's a person? And then we talked to that extent, and then we started discussing about the whitewashing of the Ashkenazi Jews, the current Jews that are in Israel right now, occupying the state of Israel, wanted to understand when did they become so white? Where were they? How? What happened? All those things. So then I discovered that this man is a pastor. He's talking about these things, and he has a very large congregation of 300 people. He will go and teach, and they were blacks there, they're whites. They will believe some of these things because he's sending this idea to them. So it's important that you are saying now that that Jesus Christ wasn't white, obviously, because in the middle, people in the Middle East are not white, they are the colored people. So what happened? What can you try to comment on that? How is it that the state of Israel, the current state of Israel, which most Christians look forward to them today, became so white as it is right now? Because you're talking about this PWW. I've seen it very strongly in Israel right now. They have their system, the Zionist system, the government of the government is being driven by this force. They are able to run their state through these three things, these PWW principles you just mentioned: power, wisdom, and wealth. They are controlling practically the media. They induce a lot of things. So how they became so whitewashed? What happened? Can you comment on that, maybe from historical perspective, or biblical perspective, so that people could be Christians? I want them to be able to understand, because I saw a lot of sympathy in the eyes of mostly black Christians, because they feel because they are Christians, they think they owe sympathy to the state of Israel. They feel affiliated. Most of them are rushing to the extent that our government are spending huge sum of money, budgeting our money to push people for pilgrimage there. So what is it that we're missing in that aspect? Please.
Okay. I was looking around to see. Anyway, let me say, first of all, if you are talking about today's Israel is a country of about 7 million Jewish people, Israelis, 7 million. Okay, out of that 7 million, 1/4 of them are people who came from the former Soviet Union. Another 1/4, so if we say 25% is Russians, another 25% comes from France, Holland, England. So 50% of the people you see there, they are white people.
Yes.
Then another 25% came from America. That means 75%. And only 25% of the Jews you see come from countries that are in the Middle East. Either from the Palestine there, from Israel there, or from Egypt, from Yemen, from Morocco, and from other places like that. So only 25% of Israel right now is dark, a little bit, look more like Arabic, but 75% look white. And the reason for it is very simple. When the Israel nation, the Jewish nation, was scattered, it was during the time of the Roman Empire. And the reason they were scattered is not out of goodwill. It's because they were rebelling, and it was out of persecution. So they had to be scattered from the land, and they were scattered all over the world. Now, when they were scattered all over the world because they were being persecuted and hated, most of them, the only way for them to survive was to mix up together with the natives of the nations where they ran into. For example, in this country right now where I am, I don't know if you remember, there is one lady we call Pastor Natasha.
Yes, yes.
Okay, you will never say she's a Jew. And she will never tell you too she's a Jew. She will tell you she's a Ukrainian or she's a Russian. 1/4 of my church is people of Jewish descent. But they will never tell you like that. Because for them to survive over the past 1,000 years or 2,000 years, They had needed to find a way of mixing up and surviving. So one of the greatest way, the fastest way for them to have survived was to marry and intermingle. Now imagine for 2,000 years, people intermingling. So that's how they became. For 2,000 years, they were never among their people. They were only in those those 3 places that I've mentioned, where 75% of them came from. And those were white nations. But the ones of them that came from Yemen, from Egypt and Morocco, they look like that, like the Jewish, or like the Arabs.
And Ethiopia too?
Yes. And the ones that came from Ethiopia look black. So that was their way of surviving. That's why they are white today.
The question is that in Revelation it says that there will be a time where the Jews will call upon the name of the Lord, that there will be frustrated. I don't know if it has happened or it's yet to happen. So I want to understand, how is this prophecy related to the present day Jews now that they are so mixed? How can we understand the pure blood of the Jews? How would that they have rejected the Messiah, but there will become a time where they will be so persecuted, until then they will cry out loud to call for the Messiah, and that is when we will see the second coming of Jesus Christ. I don't know, is this related to them?
Yes, it was the one that was talked about in the Old Testament, was the fact that they are going to be persecuted and scattered all over the world, and that but before the end of the age, before the second coming of Messiah, that God is going to gather them together again. And that's what we have seen. They have already been gathered together again, but no more as an entity of, no more as a tribal entity. So you cannot no more see them as this tribe of Judah, tribe of Shem. They don't know. They themselves don't know anymore.
They don't know.
They don't know. They are no more. So what now makes them to be Jewish is their blood. No, that they have a percentage. So when you want to claim that you are Jewish, before you could be received there, then you have to have 25% of at least 25% Jewish connection. Yes, then they admit you to be a Jewish person, or you have to have the religion. So that's the only way they now recognize the Jewish people.
And have the religion, subscribe to Judaism and be white too.
Yes.
Because the black, the Negroid Jews are not very, very welcome as they say as of now in the state of Israel, because they went as far as trying to control their population by trying to put some contraceptive in their women, sterilize some of them maybe to the extent, because they don't want the Negroid population to supersede that white, which is a very, very hurtful system. Somebody is writing saying, he said the pyramid are the most formidable landmark in Egypt. The Israelites are the only people to have lived in Egypt and made no mention of these architectural wonders. Even traders, historians, and invading armies that passed through Egypt spoke and wrote copiously of the pyramid. Why did this architectural masterpiece, the pyramid, escape the notice of the Israelites, who, according to the Bible, lived in Egypt for 400 years plus? How is it that the pyramid was never mentioned in the Bible? How is that this thing is not in their history?
Yeah, it's similar to the question you asked about the earth last time that it's been there for millions of years. Why is it that it's not in the Bible and things and the changes? The same thing. But the Bible is not a book about archaeology, and the Bible is not a book of geography. When you read the Bible, it's not big on describing the monumental or archaeological wonders of any nation or any city. The only aesthetical expression that you will see in the Bible will relate to maybe the tabernacle or the temple. And that's just because that has significance to the destiny and the fate of the Jewish nation. But otherwise, the Bible is not big on aesthetics. The Bible is bigger on destiny, predestination, and eternity, and about the person of God himself. So, but I will also tell you that if the person is asking that question, that there are people who believe that the pyramids were built by Joseph, and that the pyramids are part of the storage system that Joseph set up when he was in Egypt, and that it was later on, after the Jews left Egypt, that the pharaohs of Egypt started using it as a burial site. But before then, that it was a place of storing treasure, and that it was also built by Joseph. We know that Joseph did build some storages that were absolutely, monumental, that had something that had never existed before, and was able to withhold the storages and the produce and the food product for all the period of the famine. But I will not claim that that was the pyramid, but there are some people who do claim that. So, it depends on from what school of thought you are coming from. Personally, I would think that it's because aesthetical things like pyramid were not the focus of the Bible. There were a lot of great things in the Roman Empire that were absolutely outstanding, even during the time of Jesus. But nobody can deny the historical fact of Jesus 2,000 years ago. But then you look into the Bible and all the books of the Bible, from Matthew to Mark to Luke to John, you will never see all the wonderful roads that were constructed by the Roman Empire. They were not described. And you will never see anything about the wonderful cities, like all those, the wonders of the wonders of the architectural wonders of Rome. You will never see them mentioned as well in the Bible. It's not because they were not there; they were all there, but that was not the focus of the Bible.
Yeah, okay. Because of course we will not try to deny people the curiosity, trying to understand why the pyramid wasn't mentioned in the Bible. There are claims that some people also claim that the Jews built the pyramid as slaves, that they were being enslaved to build the pyramid, and said it's certainly not a food storage through Joseph, because there is no hollow system in the pyramid. And there are archaeological research recently that shows that some people are even claiming that it was some kind of, the channeling some kind of astral power.
Well, I will also tell you that, there are a lot of Afrocentric philosophers that also believe that it was the Africans that built it, that the pyramids were built by Africans, and that at that point when the pyramids were built, that it was not the Arabs that were living there. And I find that easy to believe as well, because the Arabs, Egypt never belonged to Arabs, and Arabs only took over Egypt about 1,300 years ago. So it was only after the death of Muhammad in the year 700 or so that it was Bashir or whoever took the place of Muhammad, launched a war, a conquering war, and then they went to the Christian. During the time of Muhammad, even Egypt was actually Christian, and it was so all the pyramids didn't belong to Egyptians that we know today. It was under the Christian influence and Christian dominion of but then even still there was nothing written about it in the Bible or by the apostles. So it was not the focus of the Bible. So I would believe that, because when you look at Egypt today, a lot of people tend to believe or think that the Egypt of today is the way it has always been, and that the Egypt of today is the same that it used to look like, and that the Egypt of ancient days belong to the Arabs, and that these Arabs that we see in Egypt today, they are the ones that were there during the time of Egypt. But no, Arabs came to take over Egypt through Islam, and that happened through the wars of Islam, and they came from the Saudi peninsula and the Saudi desert. That's how they moved to North Africa. So people who are or Afrocentric philosophers will tell you that a lot of the pyramids, they had the features of black people in their nose and in their mouth and things like that. So a lot of debates when it comes to Egypt.
It's somehow plausible, it's somehow believable, because the very image of Sphinx has the features, the faces actually, it doesn't look Caucasian. And they have a collection of so many artifacts of faces of pharaohs and different people that the nose was being chopped up. So people were questioning that, okay, it's understandable if the huge image of the Sphinx doesn't have nose, but it's questionable when the little images that were collected, practically every single images, the only one that was intact with the nose is Nefertiti, one of the famous queen, and they brought the recent image about her. They painted her white. They made sure that they shaped the nose and they painted her white and there was a brouhaha surrounding that. So it's almost believable. We can see that it's practically true, because some of those pyramids were replicated in Kush, the present-day Sudan. There are little pyramids, thousands of them in Sudan right now. We see that Sudan is largely populated by really Negroid, the people with high quantum of melanin. And then you also see the little influence of Arabs too in Sudan. So we cannot say that the Arabs that are in Egypt currently built it and they lost the technology, how the pyramid was being built, because they don't even know how to handle it. They just came in, looted some of the things. Some of them were searching for gold and searching for everything. Like it was being said that there's a capstone on the pyramid that it was made of gold. Now nobody knows where the capstone is, and people are searching for it. So there are a lot of evidence to prove that yes, black people built Egypt, have probably lost the technology, and there are also evidence in Sudan that we see that some of those pyramids have been replicated. If not for that reason, if the civilization was being allowed to propagate, probably would have went into down West Africa, down South Africa, until the interruption of the invasion and everything that caused all those things. So yes, thank you so much. Another interesting question here too. Okay, I don't know if he's interested. The person says Exodus 14:25. He says he removed their chariot wheels so that they drove them with difficulty. That is God. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." How could God stoop down that low to interfere into the political affair of man? That's what this person wants to understand. That God interfered in removing the chariot, the wheel. That there are two sets of people that are fighting a war, the Israel and the Egyptians. Right now, the Egyptians were actually in pursuit of the Jews who were trying to flee from Egypt. So that now that they're trying to pursue them, God removed their wheel, the wheel of their chariot, trying to interfere, trying to stop them. So this person is asking, why would God stoop so low to intervene in such a manner? I don't know if you want to address that, we can just pass it. I don't know.
Well, I would see that as a consistent demonstration of the nature of God. God has always been stooping so low in the affairs of men, people who care about him and people he cares about. And this God of Christianity that we are talking about is totally different from the God of other religions. So for example, let's look at the God in Islam. The God of Islam doesn't stoop so low. In the God of Islam, in the religion of Islam, you have to be willing to give your life and die and sacrifice your life for your God. And most, not just in Islam, but any God. Go and look into the God of Africans, the animistic gods. You have to bring sacrifices to them. You have to sacrifice, and before the Europeans came, people were sacrificing their children too in Africa. People were sacrificing their slaves. People were sacrificing themselves. So God, the concept of God all over the world is that it doesn't stoop low. You have to go and you have to stoop low. You have to bow down to God. And then you have to sacrifice yourself and your life and bring sacrifice to him. But he doesn't stoop low. But I think that that is exactly what makes Christianity unique. And that's one of the reasons why I am a Christian. Because I see in Christianity a God that does not demand me to stoop low to the extent of sacrificing my life to please him. But I see a God that is not too big to stoop low and stretch forth his hand and come to my level to come and understand me, take on my own image, to come and understand me even better, and become like me so that he could be able to help me. But it even did more than that. It went to the extent of going to not just carry my image and be like me, but to identify with my frailties, my weaknesses, my faults, my imperfections, and my sins. And when he identified with my sins and weaknesses, he discovered that I couldn't help myself. So this my God offered to sacrifice himself. So instead of me to bring sacrifices to him, or to bring myself as a sacrifice to him so that I might save myself, he offered that being my God is not something that is an insult to him or something that is too much for him to offer himself and kill and offer himself as a sacrifice so that he will be able to save me, his worshiper and his follower. Just he proved his love to me beyond reasonable doubt. He came to my level. He saw my helplessness. He stooped low to identify with my weaknesses and my helplessness. Then he offered himself as a sacrifice for me so that I don't need to sacrifice myself. But then I could be able to love him for who he is, somebody that doesn't need anything from me, but that has already proven his love to me, proved his love to me so that my love for him could just be as a result of my gratitude to him. Not as a result of my efforts to please him, but as a result of acknowledging his efforts to rescue me. And that's why I think that that's what the picture of what I see Jesus was trying to do with the Israelis. That all of us will still have enemies. But when you call upon him, when you put your trust in him, he will come low to come to your level to understand you. No matter what you are going through, no matter what your challenges are, no matter what your trouble is, if you will open your heart sincerely and call upon him, he will stoop low. He will not think it as an insult to stoop low. He will not take it as an insult to come to your level. He will always be there to come down to your level, to understand what you are feeling, and to not just come down to your level, but to take over your challenges, your pain, and your sorrow, and to relieve you at the expense of himself, not at the expense of not at any of your expense, but at the expense of himself. So, and that's what he was trying to show us in the example of what happened to Israel, that if he could do that to Israel, I know for sure now that he can do this. He will do the same thing for me. And that's the essence of reading the Bible. When I read the Bible, I want to see the character, the characteristics, and the nature, and the responses, and the attitude of God. I want to see how he behaves to people who trusted in him. And when I see a situation like that, and I saw the way it came through for those people who trusted in him, I know that when I trust in him as well, he will always be there for me. He shows me who he is, and he shows himself to me to be a trustworthy God that I could always rely on. And that's the same thing that we see consistently in the New Testament when Jesus showed that very same tendency of not a God that is saying go and do jihad to kill yourself and to kill other people to please God, but God that is saying no, it doesn't have to be your sacrifice. It is his sacrifice to make sure that he rescues you. You don't do the sacrifice, he does the sacrifice. And that's why I pitch my tent with this God of Christianity.
Okay. When you're talking like this, it took me back to the last debate we had with some group of people. I don't know if I'm loud enough now.
Not so much.
Okay, they're not complaining of the volume anymore. So the person was like, they were saying that Africans are practicing what is known as cultural appropriation, because the actual topic was that this Jewish religion, this Jewish concept of God is really, really interesting. Why? Because it gives answer to practically all human questions. First of all, it talks about the origin of man, where man comes from. It gives you principle on how to live your present life, and it also gives you solution to the next life. So basically, humans ask themselves this question: where do I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going to? So that the Jewish religion gave answer to this question. That is why it's very comfortable for Africans or for any other group of people, the Japanese or the Chinese, for them to appropriate this culture, for them to appropriate it and make it theirs, to be able to see their images in them, to be able to even consider themselves as children of Abraham. I mean, they consider themselves as literal children of Abraham. So it's somehow, that's the argument that most atheists get, most group of people, they try to see it as some sort of cultural appropriation. But I think we're fine with that. If it will help people, it will help people because, of course, it gives an advancement to humanity. And if Africans will be able to see it this way,